Revealed, the unexpected journey of a humble plumber who turned out to be an inspiring billionaire, in the heart of Maplewood, Ohio. A name once whispered through the streets now ignites dreams. John Baker. Known as the reliable plumber with grease-stained hands and kind eyes, John's story is nothing short of extraordinary. This is the tale of a man whose life transformed against all odds, capturing the spirit of a dying town, one leaky pipe at a time. Each morning, John wakes up to the sound of metal clanging against metal. It's the key to his father's old clock, ticking steadily away, just like John's life in this Rust Belt town. He heads to his small garage, where tools are scattered like memories of a past filled with hard work. John spent years fixing pipes and unclogging drains, but it was the burden of caring for his aging father, a war veteran with tales of bravery that echo through their modest home, that weighed heavily on his heart. His wife, Sarah, brightens even the darkest days with her laughter and unwavering faith in him. She reminds him of the value of being a good provider is found in love, not just money. But as Maplewood crumbles under the strain of economic downturns, John feels the tightening grip of dwindling jobs and mounting bills. The cracks in his once thriving business become too loud to ignore. Families around him are making sacrifices, pinching every penny, and the pressure mounts like an overflowing toilet. Every repair he makes begins to feel heavier, igniting determination, but it's the doubt gnawing at his chest that brings him to his knees at night. Then, one evening, while tinkering in the garage, inspiration strikes like a lightning bolt. Amidst the chaos of wrenches and pipes, John suddenly finds a brilliant idea, a cutting-edge plumbing invention that could revolutionize how homeowners address plumbing issues. The dream flickers to life, and with Sarah's encouragement, he dares to imagine a future brighter than his past. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With a fire in his heart, John steps into the world of business, presenting his invention to the very industry that once shunned him. Cold glares from polished executives burn into his soul, making him feel like an outsider in a world he once aspired to join. Each rejection cuts deeper, forcing him to confront the very roots that shaped him, the values of resilience and hard work instilled by his father. Just when hope seems lost, a chance encounter with a single mother struggling to afford plumbing repairs becomes his turning point. With a heartfelt promise to help, John's raw compassion is captured in a video that goes viral, showcasing the plumber with a heart. Suddenly, he finds himself in the spotlight, but with newfound attention comes the looming question: will he remain grounded in the community that shaped him or lose himself in this dizzying whirl of success? As the stakes rise and the pressure builds, the heartbeat of Maplewood echoes in his mind. Will John rise to the occasion, or will he be swept away from the love and loyalty that define his legacy? The question hangs in the air, and the town collectively holds its breath, eagerly waiting to discover the next chapter of John Baker's extraordinary journey. The morning sun streamed through the dusty garage window as John rubbed the sleep from his eyes. Today felt different. A weight he had carried for too long began to lift. The video of his encounter with the single mother still played in his mind, the way her smile lit up when he assured her everything would be all right. That spark, that small moment of hope, had resonated not just with her but with countless others who saw it. With every view, John felt a flicker of confidence that perhaps he wasn't just a plumber anymore. Perhaps he was a beacon of change for Maplewood. Walking through his neighborhood felt surreal. The same streets that were once filled with doubt now buzzed with conversations of his newfound fame. Children played on sidewalks, mothers chatted over picket fences, and familiar faces wore expressions of pride. As he passed by Mrs. Johnson's house, she waved him over. "John. I saw the video. You're a hero." Tugging at his shirt collar awkwardly, John smiled, but it barely reached his eyes. Yes, he had touched one life, but what about the many others still struggling? Was his viral moment enough? Before he could get lost in the wave of self-doubt, Sarah's voice called out from behind him. "Hey, handsome. I was just about to go bread shopping. Want to join?" Her presence was like a soothing balm, grounding him immediately. "Yeah, let us go," he replied, trying to shake off the weight of expectations swirling in his heart. As they walked hand in hand through the local grocery store, the scent of fresh-baked bread filled the air. Sarah bought a loaf to share with their neighbors, a simple act that reminded John of the community spirit they had long prized. In that moment, he realized that small gestures could collectively make someone feel valued, just like his viral video had done. But as they pulled away from the store, the buzz of notifications from his phone caught him off guard. It was too much to handle. Media requests, sponsorship opportunities, even impending partnerships. The allure of success was intoxicating, and each ping was a reminder of how quickly his life had changed. It also sent a ripple of fear through him. What if he lost sight of his roots? "Sarah, this is really taking off," he said, glancing at the glowing screen. "I don't know if I'm ready for this, John." "You've always been ready," she said, squeezing his hand. "Just remember why you started this journey." Her words were like a lifeline, but the gnawing worry refused to leave his mind. That night, John tossed and turned. Could he balance this new life without abandoning the very essence of who he was? As doubt clung to him like a second skin, he pulled out his notebook. Page after page filled with ideas, sketches, and now, the names of the families he wanted to help. With newfound purpose, he made a list of ways to keep himself connected to those he loved while pursuing this dream, but deep inside, he could feel something shifting. The harder he pushed for success, the further away his community seemed to slip. Then came a knock on the door that would change everything. Standing on his doorstep was a stranger with a determined look. The man's eyes sparkled with ambition but were also soaked in desperation. "I heard you can help people, John. I need your guidance." As the stranger spoke, unease bubbled up in John's chest. Who was this man, and what did he want from him? The uncertainties raced back. Could John really be a pillar for others, or was he risking it all by stepping into uncharted waters? Feeling the stakes rise, John took a deep breath. The moment felt pivotal, filled with possibilities, but also dangers. What would he choose? The weight of the world rested on his shoulders, while the stranger's plea echoed in his ears, tethering John to decisions yet to come. John hesitated, a flurry of thoughts swirling. The stranger's eyes, filled with a mix of hope and desperation, pierced through his uncertainty. He stepped aside, inviting the man into his small living room, the air thick with tension. "Sorry to just drop by like this." "I'm Mark," the stranger said, taking a seat without waiting for an invitation. "I watched your video, and, well, it made me believe again. I really need some advice. I'm in trouble, and I think you might be the only one who understands." "Trouble?" John repeated, his heart racing. "What kind of trouble?" Mark ran a hand through his disheveled hair, eyes darting around the room. "I lost my job a few months ago. I have a family, 2 kids. We're behind on rent, and I don't know what to do next. Your video, it gave me some hope. I figured maybe you could help, share what you did." John's pulse quickened. This was a heavy weight to bear. Yes, he had inspired people, but he'd never been in charge of someone's life like this. "I'm not a professional, just a plumber who happened to say the right thing." Mark leaned forward, urgency spilling from his lips. "But you did say the right thing. You showed them that they're not alone. You can help me find my way, just like you found yours." The plea was raw, and John felt the gravity of the moment. What if he failed? What if he let this man down? Images of his own struggles filled his mind, his family's expectations, the fear of failure, the fear of leaving his community behind. He had just begun to navigate his new path. Could he handle someone else's fate? As if sensing John's hesitation, Mark spoke more softly. "I don't need you to fix everything. I just need guidance. Someone to believe in me. To help me find what's next." John's thoughts churned with the possibility. He could see the flickering hope in Mark's eyes, like the flame that had sparked in his own heart not too long ago. Given his own experience, he wondered if supporting someone like Mark might also strengthen his roots in the community. But what about his own dreams? Could he truly be there for others while chasing his own ambitions, his hesitation hung thick in the air, and a moment of silence passed. John's heart pounded, torn between the comforting noise of his predictable life and the chaotic uncertainty of stepping out into something more. Finally, he took a breath, allowing the weight of his decision to settle. Okay. I can help. But I'm going to be honest, this won't be easy. You have to be willing to work hard and trust the process. Mark's face broke into a smile, tears welling at the corners of his eyes. I will do whatever it takes. Thank you, John. You have no idea what this means to me. The gravity of the agreement settled heavily around them. John glanced away, feeling the intensity of the moment. Could he really, truly take this leap with someone else? What if it not only transformed Mark's life but his own too? We'll start tomorrow, John said, his voice more confident than he felt. But first, let us talk about what you've been doing to try to find work. As they laid out plans, John felt an unexpected warmth blossoming within him. The fear was still a shadow, lurking just behind the hope. Then, Mark brought up a question that sent a chill down John's spine. What if this goes further, John? What happens if we succeed? John's heart raced at that thought. Had he even considered what success would look like for him, let alone for someone else? I don't know, he admitted quietly. The road ahead was daunting, but as he looked at the man across from him, he felt a flicker of courage ignite. The risk was real, but the chance to truly help someone else held a promise he was now desperate to explore. With a sense of purpose they hadn't had before, John knew their journey was just beginning, but how would it end? And at what cost? The next morning, John woke up with a knot in his stomach. It was darker than usual outside, the clouds lingering low, casting a gray blanket over his small town. He had just agreed to step into Mark's life, to help chart a course from despair to hope. The gravity of that promise weighed heavily on him, like a chain linked to his own fears. After a quick breakfast of toast and lukewarm coffee, John gathered his notes. As he glanced at the sheet filled with potential job leads for Mark, doubt nagged at him like an old friend. Was he really up for this? Could he truly guide someone else through such a mess? The knock on the door snapped him from his thoughts. Mark stood there, looking both eager and anxious, his eyes darting around as if he couldn't believe he was there. Morning. He called, forcing a smile despite the shadows under his eyes. Hey, John replied, his voice surprising himself with its steadiness. Ready to dive in? Absolutely. Mark replied, though it felt half-hearted. John could see the weight he carried, not just of his troubles, but the expectation of hope that had been placed upon him by John's earlier words. Together, they settled at the small kitchen table, notes spread before them. John started to go through potential job ideas, probing Mark about his skills and experience. As Mark spoke, John noticed the passion behind his words, how he lit up when discussing his background in electrical work. Why don't you consider starting your own business? John suggested, his heart racing. You've got skills, Mark. You could fix things around here. At first, Mark's face twisted in confusion. I don't have the money for that or the connections. John leaned forward, excited. But you have me. Let us brainstorm how you could start small. Maybe do some jobs on the side, build a reputation. There are plenty of people who need help. Mark sat back, considering the idea. The flicker of doubt danced in his eyes but was met by something stronger, a spark of belief. You really think I could do it? Absolutely, John responded, warmth spreading through him. The conversation shifted as they began planning how Mark could spread the word. They drew up flyers and explored local platforms to advertise services. The more they discussed possibilities, the more energizing their conversation became. It wasn't just about finding a job anymore, it was about creating something new. Hours ticked by, and John felt the tension in both of them fade as the day wore on. He could see the way Mark warmed to the idea, the way hope replaced some of the worry in his demeanor. They were building not just a plan but a friendship, a shared purpose. As they wrapped things up for the day, Mark was practically glowing. Walking with Mark to his car, John felt a bittersweet twist in his heart. The doubt still fluttered in the back of his mind. What if he pushed too hard? What if they failed? As if reading his thoughts, Mark turned and said with conviction, "Thank you for believing in me, John. It means everything. You have no idea how much this means." Those words hit John harder than he expected. Suddenly, he felt a burning desire to not only help Mark but to inspire himself. But then Mark added, "I hope one day to do for others what you've done for me." John froze, taken aback. Could he imagine it? Would he find himself in someone else's story of redemption? As Mark left, the weight of the new responsibility settled upon John's shoulders, like a heavy blanket. The quiet of the evening crept in. He couldn't shake the feeling that this was the start of something larger than either of them understood. The door clicked shut behind Mark, and as John stood in the dim light of his kitchen, he whispered to the empty room, "What if we succeed?" But a new question took root in his mind. What if his own fears held him back? The next day dawned with a crispness that seemed to promise change. John woke up invigorated yet apprehensive. Today was the day they would take their ideas into the world. He poured himself a fresh cup of coffee and stared out at the sky, now emblazoned with streaks of orange and gold. As he got ready, he felt a mixture of excitement and fear swirling within him. Mark arrived promptly, his face brimming with determination. "Ready?" he asked, his tone imbued with a newfound confidence. John nodded, feeling that spark of hope crackle between them. They had outlined their plan the day before, but nerves tinged the air as they set intentions, shifting the dream of business from paper into something tangible. "First stop," John said, "local hardware store to get supplies for your flyers." He grabbed his keys, and they both stepped out into the bright morning. The hardware store was busy, a steady stream of customers buzzing about. John watched as Mark's eyes roamed over the colors and textures of tools and materials displayed on the shelves. It was a new world for him, full of possibilities. They settled on paper, ink, and a few other supplies, and Mark couldn't help but express his enthusiasm. "This is the first step. Can you believe it?" John chuckled, glad to see Mark feeling positive. But just as quickly, the weight of uncertainty pressed back into his mind. He glanced around at the other customers. Were they here for the same reasons as Mark, or did they have it all figured out? He needed to remember that their journey was unique. After the hardware store, the duo moved to a coffee shop to finalize their flyer designs. Sitting at a sunlit table, Mark took the lead, sketching ideas that represented not just services but a vision of who he wanted to be. John watched him, inspired by the transformation happening right in front of him. "This is more than just a job, John," Mark said. "This is about regaining my life. I don't want to just survive anymore, I want to thrive." His words resonated deep in John's chest. Wasn't that what they were both yearning for? The idea of growth and purpose seeped into the very fabric of their conversation. As they printed their flyers, a small crowd gathered at the counter. John turned and noticed a group of older gentlemen talking animatedly about home repairs. Mark's face lit up when he overheard them discussing the need for electrical work. "Let us go," Mark exclaimed, jumping to his feet. "This could be my chance." Without waiting for a response, he approached the table, excitement radiating from him. John swallowed hard, feeling his heart race, both for Mark and the unpredictability of what could happen next. "Excuse me. I couldn't help but hear you talk about needing some work done," Mark interjected, confidence spilling from him. John watched, his anxiety mixing with pride. The men turned to face him, surprise flickering across their faces. As they exchanged details about what needed fixing, John felt hope swell inside him, the two of them stepping into the unknown together. Mark's voice grew steadier with each moment. This was at the moment he had been waiting for, not just to talk but to act. But doubt lurked in the corners of John's mind. What if Mark stumbled? What if these men laughed at his attempts? He took a deep breath, trying to push the fear away. With the conversation coming to a close, Mark shook hands with the men, enthusiasm brimming from every pore. "I'll follow up with you this week, okay?" The men smiled and nodded, promising to share their contact details. As they left the coffee shop, Mark's eyes sparkled. "Did you see that? I did it." "Yeah, you really did," John said, almost breathless. But there was still that nagging feeling at the back of his mind. How long would this newfound confidence last? With uncertainty clouding his thoughts, John felt like they were on a roller coaster, the next slope waiting to take them down into the depths of reality. Would this moment spark lasting change for Mark? Next, we go to see that old handyman who has connections, John suggested, trying to shake his fears. Mark nodded, but John caught a shadow cross his friend's face. And if that doesn't work out? He asked quietly. John paused, the weight of the question settling between them. I guess we'll find another way. But would that really be enough? As they drove to their next destination, the future stretched before them, both thrilling and terrifying. And in that moment, John realized that the real journey was just beginning. But how far would they be willing to go, and at what cost? The drive to the old handyman's house felt longer than it should have. The streets blurred together, and the familiar scenery of their small town became a background to John's spiraling thoughts. His grip tightened on the steering wheel as he stole glances at Mark. The excitement still shone in his eyes, but the shadow of doubt lingered, swirling just beneath the surface. What if he can't help us? Mark asked suddenly, breaking the silence. What if he thinks our ideas are silly? John took a deep breath, trying to push down his own worries. He's been around a long time. He might have seen it all. Even if it doesn't go the way we hope, we'll learn something. Mark nodded, but through the rearview mirror, John caught a flicker of uncertainty cross his friend's face. The confidence from earlier still flickered, but it seemed to battle against the reality of their situation. Pulling up to the handyman's place, they were greeted by a faded blue door, chipped paint, and a yard that hinted at past projects gone awry. It felt like a scene out of a movie, a place where stories were made. They stepped out of the car, and a breeze rustled the leaves overhead, almost whispering encouragement. John took the lead as they approached the door. He knocked firmly, each rap resonating deep in his chest. Seconds stretched into what felt like hours before the door creaked open to reveal an older man, his face lined with years of laughter and hard work. Can I help you? He asked, peering at them with curiosity. Hi. I'm Mark, and this is John. We're looking to start a small business, and we heard you might have some advice, Mark stammered, a hint of nerves creeping back into his voice. Come in, come in. The handyman waved them inside, his demeanor warm and inviting. The interior was cluttered but cozy, filled with tools, blueprints, and an unmistakable aura of craftsmanship. As they took a seat at a weathered table, Mark wasted no time, launching into their vision, eyes wide with passion. John reflected on how far Mark had come in just a short time, the way hope had ignited a fire in him. The handyman listened intently, nodding occasionally, and offered a few questions that pushed Mark further to clarify his ideas. John admired how Mark held his own, responding with newfound assurance. But as the conversation flowed, John couldn't help but notice the subtle doubts creeping back into Mark's expressions, like small shadows dancing in the light. Listen, the handyman finally interjected after a moment of contemplation. I've been in this business a long time. I've seen many come and go. It takes grit, patience, and a bit of luck. But you know what matters most? He leaned in, his eyes sparkling with wisdom. You need to believe in yourselves, even when others don't. Mark's eyes shone at the encouragement, but John felt heaviness seep in. Believing in oneself was easier said than done, especially when fear loomed large. What if they failed? What if this endeavor shattered their friendship instead of strengthening it? Before he could spiral further into his thoughts, the handyman continued, I'll give you a chance. We can network, I have contacts. But I need to know you're committed. Are you ready for the grind? Absolutely. Mark's voice rang out, fierce and unrelenting. John couldn't help but smile, even as anxiety gnawed at him. After they wrapped up the conversation, John felt a mix of relief and worry. They might have a chance, but there was still a mountain of uncertainty ahead. Walking back to the car, Mark was practically dancing with excitement. This is it, John. We're really doing this. Yeah, John replied, trying to match his friend's enthusiasm. As they got into the car, a sharp pang of doubt struck John again. Would they really be able to handle whatever came next? He locked his gaze ahead, trying to stay focused, but the road ahead felt foggy and uncertain. Mark, he started hesitantly. What if things don't work out the way we want? Mark's jubilant expression faltered for just a moment. Then we find another way. But we won't know unless we try. Right? John smiled, but deep inside, he felt a knot tighten. They were facing a crossroads, each choice bubbling with potential and risk. But he was unsure if he was ready to take that leap. In that moment, a car passed by, honking loudly, jolting John from his thoughts. Reality was waiting, and so was their next adventure. Could they truly take the plunge and claim their dreams? The question loomed heavy, and as they drove into the unknown, another thought crept in. Would the chance for success lead to something even bigger than they dreamed? The sun was dipping low in the sky as they drove away, casting long shadows over the cracked pavement. John glanced at Mark, whose grin had returned, the thrill of possibility lighting up his features. It made John feel a strange mix of gratitude and fear. He wanted this fire in Mark to ignite something in himself, but doubt wrapped around him like a heavy blanket. Do you think he really believes in us? John asked, keeping his eyes on the road. The question hung in the air, heavy and unspoken. Mark shrugged, his energy unbending. I mean, why would he offer connections if he didn't? This could be our shot, John. We need to make it count. They fell silent for a moment, the weight of reality settling in like the thickening twilight. John's heart raced with the pumping urgency of each passing car. What if they really could succeed? But what if they stumbled and fell flat on their faces? All right, John finally said, shaking those fearful visions from his mind. So where do we start? Mark pulled out a scrap of paper, the edges rumpled and well-studied. I wrote down some ideas. We need to figure out our brand and how to market ourselves. John grinned at the sight. Dude, you're prepared. I like it. The way Mark's face lit up with pride calmed John's nerves just a bit. They pulled into a nearby diner parking lot, the neon lights flickering to life in the dusk. The place had a cozy feel, and it was packed with the usual after-work crowd. As they scooted into a booth, both feeling the weight of what lay ahead, a waitress appeared with a genuine smile, taking their orders with ease. This place is solid, Mark said, peering at the menu. 2 cheeseburgers, please. And a mountain of fries. Make mine a small mountain, John chuckled, feeling a notch lighter. They ate in a comfortable silence, the air buzzing with the mixed scent of fries and burgers sizzling on the grill. Laughter resonated from the surrounding tables, adding life to the moment. As they dug in, John felt an ember of excitement spark within him. Okay, Mark said, wiping ketchup from the corner of his mouth. We need a name. Something that sticks. A name. Suddenly, they were on the brink of something real. What about 2 Guys Plumbing? Or, wait, Dynamic Duo Plumbing? I don't know. Mark bit his lip, thinking hard. We could incorporate our town's name. Everyone likes to support local. John nodded, the ideas flowing. Yeah. How about Hometown Heroes Plumbing? It has a nice ring to it. Their brainstorming turned into a lively back and forth, ideas bouncing like popcorn in the air. A shared vision slowly took shape, filling the diner with a palpable energy they hadn't felt until now that as they wrapped up their meal, the realization hit John again: this was their start. It felt monumental. But the thought of turning ideas into reality felt like an avalanche, towering over them, both thrilling and daunting. Walking back out into the night, they spotted a couple of kids playing basketball nearby. Laughter rang out in bright bursts, innocent and unfiltered. John felt drawn to it, the freedom of childhood joy. He turned to Mark. What if we can't make it work? What if people don't take us seriously? There it was again, the knot forming deep in his chest. We have to believe, man. Even when it's hard. Dreams don't chase themselves down, Mark replied firmly, kicking a stone as they walked, sending it tumbling across the pavement. They reached the car and climbed in, the cool night air in sharp contrast to the warmth inside the diner. All right, John sighed, but this time with a little more determination. Let us do this. As he started the engine, a sense of unity settled between them. But just before he could pull into traffic, a figure caught his eye, a man standing in the shadows, watching them intently. His face was obscured, but even from a distance, he emanated an aura of mystery. Who is that? Mark asked, following John's gaze. I have no idea. John murmured, his own heart beginning to race again. Before they could process what they were seeing, the man tilted his head slightly, an enigmatic smile appearing. Was it a warning? Or a sign? John's heart thudded painfully against his ribcage. What did this mean for them? And why did it suddenly feel like their adventure was veering into unknown territory? The man stepped closer, his features becoming clearer in the dim light. The glint of his watch caught John's eye, a touch of elegance among the night's shadows. He wore a tailored jacket, and his presence was magnetic, making it impossible for John and Mark to look away. Mark whispered, I don't like this. We should go. John felt torn. Something about the man intrigued him, yet every instinct screamed for caution. Wait, he replied softly, turning off the engine. Let's hear what he wants. The man approached, his smile widening, revealing an air of confidence that felt both intimidating and inviting. You must be John and Mark, he said, his voice smooth like silk, yet firm. I've been watching you. Watching us? Mark echoed, eyebrows knitting. There was a defensiveness in his tone, a barrier against the unexpected. You're at a crossroads, the man continued, leaning against the car, still smiling. And I think I can help. What do you mean? John asked, his heart racing, curiosity clashing with wariness. I know about your plans. I know you're dreaming big. But dreams need fuel, just like a car needs gas. And I can provide that fuel. Consider it an investment, in both of you and your vision. John exchanged apprehensive glances with Mark. What's the catch? Mark asked, refusing to leave himself vulnerable. No catch, the man responded smoothly. Just an opportunity. You want to be taken seriously, right? I can help you reach that. I see potential in what you're cooking up and I admire your heart. But you need guidance, mentorship. The air between them electrified, filled with the weight of possibilities and hidden doubts. John felt that familiar spark again, the flicker of excitement battling against the fear of failure that loomed in his mind. Mark seemed torn, though. He hesitated, scanning the man's face for any hints of deception. What makes you think we're worth it? John blurted, struggling to keep his voice steady. The man chuckled lightly. I've made it my business, figuring out who has what it takes to succeed. I see that fire in you, John. You just need to believe you deserve to fan those flames. The appeal was strong. They had just started branding themselves and here was a pivotal moment presented to them. The risk factor was high, but was that enough to turn down an opportunity? Mark finally broke the silence. Why us? Why not? The man flashed a confident grin. Because, together, we can build something incredible. And I want to be part of it. John's gut tensed. What's your name? Why should we trust you? Call me Sam. The man straightened up, his demeanor professional yet approachable. You don't have to trust me just yet. Just consider it. Meet me tomorrow morning at the coffee shop on Main. I'll bring all the details. It'll be worth your while. With that, Sam stepped back, leaving them alone again in the chilly night. As he walked away, John could feel the weight of the decision ahead pressing down on him. What do we do? Mark asked, clearly unsettled. I think we need to talk about it, John replied, his voice wavering. The thought of taking this leap was daunting yet exhilarating. What if this is our shot? And what if it's a con? Mark countered, the doubt creeping back in. They climbed back into the car, their excitement dwindling against the cold grip of uncertainty. Mark turned to John, are we ready for this? John's heart raced. This was what they had dreamed of, but it felt like the unknown had landed right in their laps. They'd been hopeful just moments ago, but now, shadows of doubt settled in. Could they truly trust in something as intangible as potential? The night felt different now, heaviness lurking in the corners. John glanced back at the spot where Sam had disappeared. Was it a fleeting chance or a path to a greater downfall? The horizon held no answers, only the vastness of the unknown. What if? John began, eyes narrowing as he fixed his gaze ahead. What if this guy changes everything for us? Mark sighed, tension woven into his shoulders. Or destroys us. As they drove away, John could feel the weight of decisions looming large. Tomorrow held promise, but it brought uncertainty. One thing was clear, they were standing on the edge. What awaited them in the morning could change everything, if they were willing to take the risk. The sun peeked over the horizon, stretching its warm fingers across the sky and illuminating the world with a golden glow. John sat on the edge of his bed, the weight of the decision pressing down on him. He could hear Mark moving around in the small shared space, the clatter of coffee cups and the shuffling of feet, but it all felt distant. His thoughts raced, replaying the previous night's encounter with Sam. What do you think he really meant by mentorship? Mark called out, pulling John from his thoughts. There was a hint of excitement in his voice, but it was tangled with doubt. I don't know. It could be what we need, or it could just be a scam, John admitted, feeling his stomach flip. Let us not get ahead of ourselves, Mark said, stepping into the room with his usual half-caffeinated grin. We'll find out soon enough, right? Yeah, soon enough, John muttered, feeling the weight of his uncertainty. They finished getting ready in what felt like a blur. As they drove to the coffee shop on Main, the city began waking up around them, people rushing to work, others plopping into cafes for their morning fix. The energy of a new day surrounded them, yet John felt muted in its brightness. His mind was swallowed by the what-ifs. When they arrived, the quaint coffee shop was buzzing with life, a stark contrast to his inner turmoil. They walked through the door, the scent of freshly brewed coffee wrapping around them like a warm blanket. Let us sit by the window, Mark suggested, scanning the room for the man who could be their ticket to the future. They settled into a small table, sunlight cascading over them while they waited. John could feel his palms sweat, nerves tangling in his stomach. What if he doesn't show? John asked, fidgeting with his cup. He might be late, or change his mind. It's possible, Mark replied, though the hope in his voice was faint. But as the minutes ticked by, John's anxiety morphed into something sharper: fear. Maybe Sam was just another mirage in a long string of disappointments. Just as he was about to voice his worry, the door swung open. Sam strode in, a commanding presence against the cozy backdrop of the shop. He spotted them quickly, his smile brighter than the early morning light. Gentlemen, he called out, striding toward their table with a confident air. He was carrying a sleek briefcase that caught the glint of the sun. I'm glad you came. Mark shot John a tight-lipped look, wary yet curious. You said you'd have details? Absolutely. Sam placed the briefcase on the table and opened it with a satisfying click. Inside was a polished portfolio filled with papers, graphs, and images. What I propose goes beyond simple mentorship. This is about building something together, about cultivating your ideas into a business that could change lives. John leaned closer, heart pounding as Sam outlined his vision. It was ambitious and audacious. He spoke of partnerships, funding, and innovative strategies that made John's imagination ignite. But each promise was trailed by the ghost of caution, leaving John shivering under the weight of his doubts. What's the catch? Mark interjected, a note of skepticism creeping into his tone. Sam laughed lightly, his eyes sparkling with charisma. No catches, only ambition. But it's a commitment. Are you both willing to put in the work? John's pulse quickened as Sam presented the financial projections, which were aggressive yet entirely possible. The graphic images of products, the potential market, the stories of who they could impact, it was intoxicating. Look, I believe in you both. I can see the fire in your eyes, Sam added, leaning in a little closer. Trust me, I wouldn't waste my time if I didn't see potential. As Sam spoke, John's heart seemed to beat in time with his words, every rhythmic pulse echoing a yearning for success, a life of purpose, a life beyond plumbing. Okay, let us say we're interested, Mark started, eyes narrowed as he thought through the implications. Before he could finish, the door chimed behind Sam and an unexpected figure entered, a woman in a sharp suit. Her presence radiating authority. She scanned the room, then locked eyes with Sam, her expression shifting to a mixture of concern and surprise. Sam, what are you doing here? She asked, a hint of frustration lacing her words. John's heart dropped as the tension in the room thickened. This was no longer just a meeting about potential. A new layer of complexity unfolded, hinting at secrets hidden just out of reach. Who is she? Mark whispered, gripping the edge of the table as if bracing for an approaching storm. John's excitement dimmed, but the flame of possibility flickered fiercely. They were on the brink of something big, but was everything as it seemed? He took a breath, determination flooding through him one way or another. He was ready to find out, what was this woman's relationship with Sam, and could it change everything they were stepping into? The air crackled with tension as the woman approached their table, a frown etched deep on her face. It felt like a scene from a movie, the kind that leaves you on the edge of your seat. John exchanged a glance with Mark, both of them locked in silent agreement they were in uncharted waters. Sam, we need to talk, she said, her tone firm. This isn't the place for business discussions. John felt his heart race, caught between the gravity of the situation and the buzz of their ambitious plans. Sam held her gaze, unfazed, and a silent battle unfolded between them. Is there an issue? Sam finally asked, that trademark smile fading just a notch. The woman shifted her weight, glancing briefly at John and Mark, who sat there wide-eyed, helpless observers to the unfolding drama. You can't go making promises without consulting the board first. Board? The word sent a jolt through John. He took a deep breath, trying to pull himself back together amidst the rising tide of anxiety. This was supposed to be his chance, his break into something bigger. What was happening? Look, Claire, Sam snapped back, lowering his voice but failing to hide his irritation. These guys have potential. I'm willing to invest. They can help reshape our vision. Can't you see that? Claire's expression softened for a split second, then hardened again. Potential doesn't outweigh policy, Sam. You need to be careful with who gets involved in these kinds of ventures. An awkward silence settled over the table, 3 sets of eyes flickering between Sam and Claire. At this moment, everything felt at stake. John cleared his throat, breaking the tension. What's at risk for us, really? He couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on the edge of a cliff. If we dive in, will it really work out? Sam turned to him, his eyes locking onto John's, a glimmer of resolve shining through. You've got to trust. Every venture requires risk. And with risk comes opportunity. Mark shifted in his seat, anxiety barely concealed beneath his bravado. What about the board? What does that mean for us? We'll figure that out later, Sam replied hastily, his confidence returning. I see your drive. You both want to build something meaningful. That's what matters. As Sam spoke, a newfound fire ignited within John. Wasn't that exactly what he wanted? To transform lives beyond just fixing leaky pipes. To restore hope to people like Mark. He turned to Mark, who met his eyes and saw the same spark reflected back, but then doubt swept in again, dark and gnawing. What if trusting Sam led them into a web of deceit? Before John could voice his concerns, Claire spoke again, softer this time. I know you both are excited, but any partnership should come from a place of trust. Make sure you do your due diligence, explore every angle, because it's easy to get swept away in someone else's vision. Her words hit home, echoing in John's heart. He nodded slowly, feeling the weight of responsibility creeping in. Would they regret diving into something of this magnitude without fully understanding it? Sam, John said, a mix of determination and caution in his voice. If we're all in, then it has to feel right. I'd rather walk away now than make a decision we can't undo later. Mark leaned back, visibly contemplating the gravity of what John had just said. Fair enough, Sam replied, meeting John's earnest gaze, as if testing their resolve. I'll consider the investment, but we need clarity. No more surprises, John added, feeling resolve settle like an anchor in his chest. Deal, Sam responded, leaning forward excitedly. Let us see what we can accomplish together. As Sam's words wrapped around them, the room buzzed with a gravitational pull of collective ambition. The possibilities felt tangible, each heartbeat echoing with promise. Claire maintained her skeptical expression as she glanced at them, but John sensed a shift. Perhaps she would come to see the potential too, if given time. After a few more moments of discussion, they parted ways, John's mind churning with newfound energy and purpose. The uncertainty remained, but so did hope, woven tightly into the fabric of possibility. As John and Mark left the coffee shop, the sunlight hitting their faces felt like a warm embrace, signaling the dawn of a new chapter. Whatever happens next, John, Mark said, breaking the silence, I've got your back. I know, John replied, the corners of his mouth lifting into a grin. Let us make it count. With each step they took away from the coffee shop, they felt like warriors stepping out into battle, a battle for their dreams, their home, and every family in Maplewood needing the hope they could offer. And as John looked toward the horizon, a sense of clarity washed over him. No matter the hurdles ahead, they were ready to face them together, fueled by belief their journey transforming not just themselves but their entire community. In that moment, the promise of a brighter future began to unfold, one courageous leap at a time. Now more than ever, it was time for action. If you believe in chasing dreams and inspiring change, this is your moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Your support makes a difference. Comment on your reactions and feelings about this ending, it means the world. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Only true fans understand how vital it is to support the channel through these actions.